just say one thing?
Yeah.
Uh, if it comes down to two hosts, can me and Zay take over nerds?
What do you mean?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed having Glammy on, but the me and Zay, when it's just the two of us together and just shooting our shit and just talking whatever we want to talk, both on and off, we have really great chemistry together. And
Is this your opinion or Zay's opinion?
it's my opinion.
Okay. So while Glammy was away at Fat Camp, you and Zay were slaying?
No, not really. but no, we were just pointing out what we're gonna do with Nerds, even though it's a really slow news day. Hey, we try to come up with fun stuff, of like painting and giveaways and all that, and it,
So it begins the lolcownerd civil war that I think has been brewing for quite a bit of time. I think as far back as it first started, there's always been some deep issue with lolcownerd, whether it be just hosts, creators, backstab people, running the show, like producers or managers, like in the case of Boogie and Becky. I think ultimately we're seeing that it's on the verge of imploding. Well, it's surprising because compared to other shows imploding, or I would say kind of coming close to imploding, I wasn't surprised that Nerds happened so right away, but I was kind of thinking it would be a little later, like maybe like a week or two after Glammy came back. But for Eric to straight up just say that he wants him and Zay to run a show, what the comic go?
Basically.
Yeah, well, okay, so I was doing most of the content for the nerds at the camp, and I did. You know why? Because most of the shit was about me on the stream, and the thumbnails were all about me. So, and then when I jumped on, you guys went from like 300 to 700, so I call bullshit. Thank you so much. And then, Zay and Eric were doing different content than I wanted to do, and I brought up a different avenue
yeah, because when we were on meetings, you barely aren't in meetings. I was the one outside of the knife one when we had Pharaoh. So I showed up for most meetings. Even when my internet was being shitty, they still find ways of being on the meeting because I care about this show.
Hold on.
I do care about the show, and I was at most of the meetings, but when I was at Fat Camp, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was in the chat with you guys, and I was trying to engage and tell you what I wanted to see. You want to go back and look? Go back and look. Go back and look.
Now, the bickering about who and don't, I do think, before I move forward, I like to kind of say this very clear. I do think Eric is heavily being influenced by Zay. I think you can't deny that. Compare it to the other hosts, right? Like where Leppy was very much his own individual, Pharaoh is his own individual, Zay and obviously Glammy. I think Eric is a very impressionable person that whoever has the most influence on him, he's going to just go with it. And I think because Zay and him are more similar in age and much more similar in just general things they like. And I wouldn't really call them nerds, but very much you're like your surface level nerd. They have a lot more in common in things they like compared to someone like Pharaoh, who was like, I would say relatively kind of close to me, who's very much nerdy, right? But I think when it's coming to content, I don't think Pharaoh content was bad. I just think that just who he is as a person is not for it. And obviously I think Glammy is more, I would say more nerdy than they are, or very much more old school nerdy. It's very hard, right, for them to make content. But the fact that even like this is happening, it's hilarious. And later on they argue about content and what they want to do. And obviously later on, I'm going to make it clear now that I do agree with more Glammy former content than I do with Zay or Eric. And obviously Eric is just being influenced by Zay much more. Even Boogie calls him out a number of times. Even Keem calls him out on it. And even was very much like, well, of course, it's been building up. Because I think Zay wants to have full control of the show. And so for her, having somebody like Glammy who is very much more resilient, and you'll see it later on, who is much more obtuse and resilient, or even Pharaoh who doesn't want to cover drama, they are much more difficult to deal with. Same thing with Leppy. So I think this was the inevitability that Zay saw somebody who he can use.
the channel to go to a different direction, and as soon as I get home to my setup, I'm going to outline and make a mock-up of where the direction is of where I want the channel to go. You even know yourself that once they call for fucking nerd shit, but then you do and the numbers aren't there. I want the nerd
That's
channel to
because
go
the audience really doesn't know what they want. Okay, hey, look.
Exactly.
Yes.
I want the nerd channel to go
Eric,
a totally
still
different
stands,
direction.
though. I think what Eric said was true, and he brought this up to me. So this whole I brought this up to Eric is like kind of funny. He brought this up to me the other day after Key mentioned about there being 2 hosts on every show. Eric had brought this up to me and said that if it ended up being 2 hosts, that he would want it to be me and him. And then we talked about the conversation of like what that would look like and everything. So yeah, we had that conversation.
And you could clearly show that like Glammy wants a different direction, and I think that's also another key factor is directions of the show and where they want to go. Personally, I think the way the show is currently, it's not a good footing. It has very hard. It does not have a lot of ground to stand on, and is very much on the verge of being canceled. The funny thing about it is that nerd stuff are very popular, right? Nerd stuff will always be popular. Gaming stuff will always be popular. But I think it depends on the host and it depends on the person, how charismatic they are in getting people like that, right? Nerd stuff will always be... And one of the things I will even say that nerd stuff, in the case of Pharaoh, and even like Zay made a point that like the stuff he's talking about is very niche. And it is. No matter how much you try to, it is very niche. But at the same time, it's like it is niche. But also, if you have the charismatic personality, and you're able to talk about something for long hours on end, then it doesn't matter. Like me and my friend will talk about like very obscure thing for hours on end. It's all about how you present it. It's all about how you say your wording and how you as a person can talk, right? Just because this person is just because something is niche doesn't necessarily mean it's hard to talk about. It's just the personality and the person behind the camera. Like I would even say that currently right now, like I would say that there's a bit of an audience of mine that do watch these videos, right? Maybe not live all the way through, but I can talk about lolcowlive stuff for a while, and as long as I have the energy and the ambition to talk about it, there's gonna be people who want to talk about it, and I think it also depends on the direction.
All she wants to do is fight.
Glammy.
So you definitely want to go down to 2 co-hosts then?
I'm for it.
Yeah, they do. Okay, Glammy, can you pitch the new direction you want to take nerds? Because you've piqued my interest. I'm curious to hear this.
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go down to 2 co-hosts, and I'd like to go where it is about the gamers that are in the YouTube Twitch space. I want to do drama commentary on gamer stuff, so that's drama plus it's engaging, and I want to do commentary about other gamers like Twitch and things like that.
So basically, the stuff that people are complaining about our show is that we barely cover nerdy topics, which we have been we've been doing what we call a drama sandwich, where the drama stuff we go on top, then we go to the nerdy shit, and then the nerdy related drama.
Well, you shouldn't
But
really.
it's all
You shouldn't be listening to the audience
Rikaroo
because
48 super chatted $20. What ideas? Y'all lying and got no content. Rebrand for animation. I got you pimp.
Now here they try to give an outline of the direction they're both trying to go for. Glammy wants to focus a lot more nerd stuff, more news and drama. And I guess like in the case of Zay and Eric, they want to focus on other stuff. Honestly, the Glammy stuff is something I could appreciate, because honestly, covering and talking about the content creator, Twitch creator, their drama and their stuff, with a lot of Twitch streamers are gamers one way or another, and they're very much nerdy-ish, right? There's a whole heap of content, a gold mine that Glammy is right that they should focus and talk about, because it brings in audience, especially if you tag it and you hashtag it on your videos, right? I won't even deny, like I made some of my best videos are about that kind of stuff. And I think Glammy's in the right direction. I do think her, and like before this, he kind of did say that she wanted one buff weed. Well, I honestly would appreciate one buff weed on the show, because he has an energy that the show desperately needs, right? The show desperately needs an individual who has that energy. But ultimately, I'm not sure who's gonna win now in this little civil war between the nerds, right? Glammy or Zay. Eric is really more or less just a pawn Zay uses. It's very sad. I'm not saying that the guy doesn't have his own opinions. The guy doesn't have his own perspective, but it's like very minuscule, and it's clearly being, overrun, it's being dominated by Zay, who is a much more stronger personality compared to Eric, right? Now, one thing is to say, not every nerd has a very weak personality, but in the case of Zay and someone like Eric, and again, I think Eric sees Zay as a much more close friend, like a more real friend than anything else, so he's more acceptable to it. Compared to Glammy, where Glammy is much older, and I think Eric would see her more as like a mom or older woman figure, where Zay is more like a sibling / like closer friend figure. But ultimately, I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you guys feel and how you guys think things are gonna play out. I personally would say that in the end of the day, before I end the video, they will have a stream Monday, which is obviously just gonna be uploaded later on Monday. Well, that's gonna be a shit show to watch. But till then, everybody, have a good one, be safe, and God bless.